The wolves were dying in the snow when the human Omega found them. A wounded white wolf lay barely breathing beside a terrified mother, while their tiny pup cried helplessly between them. Everyone in the kingdom had been warned never to shelter wolves. But Elena opened her door. She carried the injured family inside. She treated their wounds. She fed them. And when hunters came searching through the forest that night, she risked everything to hide them. What Elena didn't know was that she had just saved the family of the most feared Alpha King alive. Because at sunrise hundreds of royal wolves surrounded her tiny cottage. And the enormous black wolf standing at their center slowly stepped forward. He looked at the Omega who had protected his family. Then he lowered his head before her. "You saved what belongs to me." Elena's heart stopped. Because the Alpha King's next words would change her life forever. The wolves were dying in the snow when Elena found them. The storm had swallowed Frostpine Forest beneath a wall of white. Wind screamed between the ancient trees and shook the wooden walls of Elena's little cottage. She had already locked the door for the night. Then she heard it. A weak cry. Elena froze beside the fireplace. Came again. Not the howl of a hunting wolf. Something smaller. Something afraid. She picked up her lantern and stepped outside. Cold air rushed beneath her cloak. For several moments she saw nothing except snow. Then two pale eyes appeared between the trees. A massive white wolf stepped into the moonlight. Elena's breath caught. The animal was enormous. Blood stained the fur along its shoulder and side. One front leg dragged slightly behind him. Behind him came a second white wolf. Female. She was also injured. But she kept herself between Elena and the smallest creature hiding beneath her body. Pup. The tiny wolf trembled in the snow. Elena forgot her fear. "Oh no!" The male wolf growled. Elena stopped moving. His eyes remained fixed on her. She knew the stories. Everyone in the village did. Wolves were dangerous. Wolves attacked travelers. Wolves belonged to the ancient forests and were never supposed to cross into human territory. But Elena had spent enough years being treated as something unwanted to recognize fear in another living creature. These wolves were not hunting. They were running. Then Elena heard something in the distance. Horn. Then another. Hunters. The female wolf immediately lowered her body over the pup. The injured male tried to stand straighter. He could barely remain upright. Elena looked toward the dark forest. The hunters were getting closer. If they found the wolves outside her cottage, they would kill them. She looked back at the three animals. Her heart pounded. She should close the door. She should let nature take its course. She should stay out of danger. Instead, Elena opened the cottage door. "Come inside." The male wolf stared at her. The female did not move. The pup made a tiny frightened sound. Elena stepped backward. "I won't hurt you." The male wolf took one step. Then another. His strength suddenly disappeared. He collapsed into the snow. Elena rushed forward. The wolf growled again. But he did not attack. "Easy." She knelt beside him. His fur was freezing beneath her fingers. The wound on his shoulder was worse than she first thought. Something had torn deeply through the thick white coat. Elena looked toward the other two wolves. "Bring him inside." For one strange moment, she almost laughed at herself. She was talking to wolves as though they could understand her. Yet the female slowly moved forward. The pup followed. Together they entered the cottage. Elena pulled the door shut. The warmth of the fire filled the room. She hurried to gather clean cloth, herbs and warm water. The male wolf lay near the fireplace. His eyes never left her. "You don't trust me." His ears shifted. Elena gave a tired smile. "I don't blame you." She carefully cleaned the wound. The wolf's muscles tightened. He did not move. Outside, the hunters' voices grew louder. "Search the eastern trail." Elena's hands stopped. Another voice answered. "They cannot have gone far." Her blood ran cold. The wolves heard them too. The female immediately stood. The pup pressed against her legs. Elena looked around the tiny cottage. There was nowhere to hide 3 enormous wolves. Then she remembered the old storage room beneath the floor. Her father had built it years ago. She hurried toward the wooden panel and pulled it open. There! The female looked down. The injured male tried to rise. He failed. Elena grabbed his thick fur near the shoulder and pulled. Come on! He was far heavier than she expected. She struggled. Her boots slipped against the floor. For one frightening second she thought she would fall. Then the wolf pushed himself forward. Together they reached the hidden opening. The female disappeared first. The pup followed. The injured male remained behind. He looked at Elena. Something about his expression changed. There was intelligence in his eyes. Not ordinary animal intelligence. Something deeper. Something almost human. Elena whispered, "Please." The wolf lowered his head. Then he entered the darkness. Elena closed the wooden panel just as someone struck her front door. Bang! He jumped. Another knock followed. Harder. Open the door. Elena stood completely still. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She wiped the blood from her hands and walked toward the entrance. Another voice came from outside. "We have orders to search every house near the forest." Elena looked toward the floor. Beneath it were 3 creatures whose lives now depended on her. She took a slow breath. Then opened the door. 3 armed men stood outside. Behind them were royal soldiers carrying silver weapons. Elena lowered her eyes. "Can I help you?" The tallest soldier studied her. "You live alone?" "Yes." "Have you seen any wolves?" Elena's heart nearly stopped. She glanced toward the forest. Then back at the soldier. "No." The soldier stepped inside. His boots left wet marks across her wooden floor. He looked around. The fire. The herbs. The small table. The narrow bed. Then his eyes moved toward the storage room. Elena's fingers tightened around the edge of her cloak. The soldier walked toward it. 1 step. Then another. Beneath the floor, the tiny pup made the faintest sound. Elena heard it. The soldier stopped. His hand moved toward his weapon. And Elena realized she had only seconds to protect the family she had just welcomed into her home. But what she did not know was that the injured wolf beneath her floor had already made a decision. If the soldier opened that door, he would reveal exactly who he was. And the entire kingdom would learn that the missing royal family was alive. The soldier's hand rested on the wooden panel. Elena could hear the faintest sound beneath the floor. Soft whimper. A pup. Her heart raced. The soldier looked at her. What was that? Elena forced herself to remain calm. "My old pipes." The soldier frowned. "Pipes?" Elena nodded. "They make strange sounds when the fire gets hot." For several seconds he said nothing. Then he crouched. His fingers moved toward the edge of the wooden panel. Beneath him, the wounded male wolf shifted. Elena knew what would happen if the panel opened. The soldier would see them. The hunters would enter. The pup would be taken. Elena stepped forward. "You should search the other rooms first." The soldier looked up. "Why?" "Because if wolves entered my cottage they would have left tracks." She pointed toward the door. Snow covered the floor near the entrance. The soldier looked. There were no wolf tracks. His expression changed. Elena held her breath. Finally he stood. "Search outside." The soldiers moved toward the door. Before leaving, the man looked back at Elena. "If we discover you lied to us." He let the warning remain unfinished. Then he walked away. Elena closed the door. She waited. 1 second. 5. Only when the sound of boots disappeared did she release the breath trapped in her chest. She rushed to the hidden panel. The pup immediately crawled out. Elena lifted it carefully. "You frightened me." The tiny wolf pressed its face against her shoulder. Elena smiled despite herself. "You're very lucky." Behind her came a deep growl. He turned. The injured male was staring at the doorway. He was not watching the soldiers anymore. He was watching Elena. She slowly lowered the pup. Your wound needs attention. The wolf did not move. Elena brought the lantern closer. Now that she could see him properly, something felt strange. His fur was almost perfectly white. Around his neck hung a narrow silver chain. At its end was a small pendant. Elena reached toward it. The wolf immediately growled. She pulled her hand back. All right. She sat beside the fire. I won't touch it. The female wolf remained close to the pup. Her eyes followed Elena carefully. Elena prepared more herbs. Her mother had taught her how to treat wounds when she was a child. Most of those lessons were considered useless by the village. Her mother had always disagreed. Nature remembers what people forget, she used to say. Elena had never understood the words. Not until tonight. She crushed the herbs and mixed them with warm water. Then she approached the female. The wolf stiffened. You're poisoned. The female's ears moved. Elena touched the edge of the wound. The skin around it had turned dark. This was not a normal injury. Someone had coated the weapon with poison. Elena's stomach tightened. These weren't hunters. The female stared at her. Someone attacked you. The wolf looked toward the male, then toward the pup. Elena understood. They had been running from someone. She worked carefully. The female remained still. After several minutes, Elena pressed the healing mixture against the wound. The wolf flinched, but she did not pull away. The pup watched from beside the fire. Elena glanced at it. You don't have to be afraid. The tiny wolf tilted its head. Then it walked toward her. Elena smiled. She reached down. The pup placed one paw against her hand. Something strange happened. A faint warmth traveled through Elena's fingers. She pulled back. The pup stared at her. Elena looked at her own hand. For a moment, she thought she saw a pale silver glow beneath her skin. Then it disappeared. She shook her head. She was exhausted. That was all. She returned to treating the female. Hours passed. The storm weakened. The injured male finally opened his eyes. Elena was sitting beside the fire. The pup slept against her cloak. The male stared at the sleeping child. Then he looked at Elena. Slowly he pushed himself upright. Elena stood. Don't move. The wolf ignored her. He took one step. Then another. His body suddenly shifted. Elena stepped backward. The wolf's shape began to change. White fur disappeared. Bones and muscles transformed. The creature standing before her was no longer an animal. A wounded man stood beside the fire. He was tall and broad-shouldered. Dark hair fell across his forehead. Blood stained his side. But the silver pendant remained around his neck. Elena stared. The man stared back. Neither spoke. Then he lowered his eyes toward the pup. Lyra! The pup woke immediately. It ran toward him. The man caught it against his chest. Elena's mind struggled to understand what she had witnessed. You! Her voice failed. The man looked at her. You saved us. Elena took another step backward. You can speak. A faint smile touched his face. I could speak before you opened your door. Elena looked toward the female wolf. The female shifted too. A woman appeared beside the fire. She was pale from blood loss. Her eyes remained protective as she moved toward the pup. Elena stared at all three of them. You're wolves. The woman almost smiled. Yes. But you're shifters. Elena's gaze fell on the silver pendant. The symbol engraved upon it suddenly looked familiar. She had seen it before. Not on a wolf. In her mother's old belongings. Elena hurried toward a small wooden chest. She opened it. Inside were dried herbs, old cloth, and one faded piece of parchment. She unfolded it. The same symbol appeared in the corner. The man noticed. His expression changed. Where did you get that? My mother. Silence filled the cottage. The woman looked at the man. The man's face became serious. Who was your mother? Mira Vale. The man went completely still. The woman whispered the name. Mira. Elena looked between them. You know her. Before either could answer, a distant howl rolled through the forest. Then another. Then dozens. The man's expression hardened. He moved toward the window. Elena followed. Beyond the cottage, hundreds of shadows moved through the trees. White wolves. Dozens. Then hundreds. The man touched the silver pendant. This is no longer just about us. Elena looked at him. What does that mean? He turned toward her. His eyes were no longer those of an injured stranger. They carried authority, fear, and something almost like respect. You sheltered the family of the Alpha King. Elena's blood ran cold. The family of the man looked toward the sunrise beginning beyond the mountains. He will come for us. Elena swallowed. When? The man looked at the first golden light touching the snow. Very soon. And somewhere deep within the forest, a single enormous howl answered. The wolves outside immediately lowered their heads. Elena realized they were not waiting for another hunter. They were waiting for their king. The forest went silent. Not quiet. Silent. Elena stood beside the cottage window with one hand resting against the cold glass. Outside, hundreds of white wolves stood between the trees. None moved. None growled. None looked toward the cottage. They were all staring in the same direction. Toward the mountains. Darius, still wounded but now in human form, stepped beside Elena. He is coming. Elena looked at him. The Alpha King. Darius nodded. Rhea held Lyra close against her chest. For the first time since Elena had found them, the royal wolf family did not look frightened. They looked relieved. Then the first sound came. A deep howl rolled across the forest. The wolves outside lowered their heads. Another howl answered from farther up the mountain. Then Elena saw movement. A single enormous black wolf emerged from the trees. He was larger than any wolf she had ever seen. His fur was almost completely black except for a silver streak running across his chest. His eyes were pale silver. Cold, focused, powerful. He walked alone. Yet every wolf in the forest seemed to move with him. Elena's heart began beating faster. The black wolf stopped outside the cottage. His gaze moved through the window, straight to her. Elena did not understand why she suddenly felt as if the entire forest were holding its breath. The wolf stepped forward. He crossed the threshold. Then his body shifted. The enormous wolf became a man. He was tall and broad-shouldered. Dark hair framed a hard face. A black coat covered his shoulders. Silver markings ran along the edge of his collar. He looked at Darius first, then Rhea, and Lyra. His expression changed. For the smallest moment, the coldness disappeared. Relief took its place. Darius! His brother lowered his head. Kael! The Alpha King crossed the room and placed a hand on Darius's shoulder. You're alive. Because of her. Darius looked toward Elena. Kael followed his gaze. Their eyes met. Elena felt strangely exposed. Kael's expression became unreadable. He looked at the herbs beside the fire, then at the bandages, then at Rhea's healing wound. You treated them. Elena nodded. Kael moved closer. His eyes examined the wound. This poison should have killed her. Elena swallowed. I knew how to treat it. Who taught you? My mother. Kael's eyes narrowed. Your mother. Mira Vale. Silence. The name seemed to change something inside him. Kael stepped back. Where did you hear that name? She was my mother. Kael stared at her. Darius looked equally stunned. Rhea slowly lowered Lyra. What did Mira teach you? Healing. Kael's gaze dropped toward Elena's hands. Then he noticed the faint mark near her wrist. Pale crescent. His face hardened. Where did you get that? Elena looked down. This. She had carried the mark since childhood. Her mother had always told her not to worry about it. I was born with it. Kael stepped closer. He did not touch her. but his eyes remained fixed on the mark. That is the guardian mark. Elena shook her head. I don't know what that means. Kael looked at Darius. Darius gave a slow nod. It cannot be. What? Elena asked. Kael did not answer. Instead he walked toward the old wooden chest. He saw the parchment Elena had opened earlier. The ancient symbol was still visible. Kael picked it up. His expression changed again. This seal belonged to the first human guardians. Elena stared at him. My mother knew about them. Your mother was one of them. Elena's chest tightened. No. Kael looked at her. She was. My mother was a healer. She was more than that. Elena stepped backward. Her entire life suddenly felt uncertain. Everything she remembered about her mother seemed incomplete. The quiet woman who had gathered herbs. The woman who had disappeared years ago. The woman who had always warned Elena never to enter the northern forest. Why had she never told her the truth? Kael placed the parchment on the table. Your mother protected the Moonblood royal family. Elena stared at him. Then why did she leave me? Kael had no answer. For once, the Alpha King looked uncertain. Rhea stepped forward. Mira saved our people once. Elena turned toward her. You knew her. Rhea nodded. She saved my life. Elena's eyes filled with tears. Her mother had never told her. Not once. Before Elena could ask another question, a howl sounded outside. The wolves immediately became alert. Kael turned toward the door. His expression changed from curiosity to command. How many? Darius looked outside. More than 50. Soldiers. Darius nodded. Kael's jaw tightened. They followed us. Elena's stomach dropped. Here. Kael looked at her. Yes. The first arrow struck the wooden wall. Elena flinched. Another arrow flew through the window. Kael moved instantly. He stepped between Elena and the opening. Outside, wolves began growling. The royal soldiers had arrived. Kael looked toward Darius. Get Rhea and Lyra through the back passage. Darius nodded. Elena looked at Kael. What about you? I will hold them here. No. Kael turned. Elena surprised herself. You're injured too. His eyebrows lifted. You are worried about me. I am worried about anyone who thinks standing in front of 50 armed soldiers is a good plan. For the first time, something almost like amusement appeared in his eyes. Then it disappeared. You protected my family without knowing who they were. His voice softened. I will not let them harm you. Another arrow struck the wall. Kael turned toward the door. Elena caught his sleeve. Wait. He looked back. She reached for a small pouch of herbs. Take this. He stared at it. What is it? For pain. I don't need it. You do. Their eyes met. For several seconds neither moved. Then Kael accepted the pouch. Outside, the wolves began moving. Hundreds of white bodies formed a wall around the cottage. Kael opened the door. He stepped outside. Every wolf immediately lowered its head. Elena watched from behind him. The Alpha King stood alone in the snow. Then he spoke. His voice carried through the entire forest. Anyone who crosses this line will answer to me. The soldiers stopped. Kael turned his head slightly. His eyes found Elena through the doorway. You should come with me. Elena hesitated. To where? My kingdom. She stared at him. I don't belong there. Kael's expression became serious. That is not for you to decide yet. Elena frowned. I don't like being ordered around. A faint silence followed. Then Kael gave a quiet answer. I noticed. Darius almost smiled. Rhea looked at Elena with something that resembled approval. Kael stepped closer. You cannot remain here. Elena looked at her little cottage. The place where she had lived alone. The place where she had opened her door to 3 strangers. Then she looked at the hundreds of wolves outside. Kael extended his hand. Elena did not take it immediately. She looked at his face. Why me? Kael's eyes softened. I don't know yet. That answer frightened her more than certainty would have. He lowered his hand. But I intend to find out. Elena finally stepped outside. The wolves parted. A path opened through the snow. And as Elena walked beside the Alpha King toward the waiting forest, she realized her quiet life had ended the moment she opened her door. Behind them, her cottage disappeared beneath the falling snow. Ahead stood the kingdom of the wolves. And somewhere inside that kingdom waited the truth about her mother. But Elena did not know that another pair of eyes had been watching from the mountain ridge. Lord Varric had seen the Alpha King find Elena. And when he saw the guardian mark on her wrist, his expression darkened. She survived. He turned away from the forest. Then the old bloodline is alive again. The hunt had changed. It was no longer for the royal family. Now they were coming for Elena. The journey to the Moonblood stronghold took most of the morning. Elena walked through the snow beside Kael while the royal wolves moved silently around them. No one spoke much. Every few minutes Elena glanced at the wolves surrounding her. They were watching her. Not with suspicion anymore. With curiosity. Some lowered their heads when she passed. Others simply stared. Elena had never experienced anything like it. In her village, people looked at her as though she were an inconvenience. Here, hundreds of wolves seemed to know that she mattered. That frightened her more than rejection ever had. The stronghold appeared just before sunset. It rose from the mountainside like something carved directly from the stone. Dark towers reached toward the gray sky. Massive gates stood between two walls covered with ancient silver symbols. White wolves guarded every entrance. When Kael approached, the gates opened immediately. Elena stepped inside. The courtyard fell silent. Hundreds of eyes turned toward her. Human. An Omega. Walking beside their king. Whispers spread through the crowd. She is human. Why is she here? Is that the guardian? Elena lowered her eyes. The old feeling returned. The feeling of being watched. Rejected. Kael noticed. You don't have to look down. Elena glanced at him. Everyone is staring. They would stare at anyone walking beside me. That does not make it comfortable. Kael almost smiled. No. It doesn't. Before Elena could answer, Lyra ran past them. The little pup had been carried most of the journey by Rhea, but now she raced across the courtyard and stopped beside Elena. She pressed against Elena's legs. The whispers grew louder. Rhea watched from behind. Kael's expression became thoughtful. Lyra rarely trusts strangers. Elena looked down. She is still a pup. She is royal. Elena smiled faintly. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. Kael looked at her. For a moment, the cold Alpha King seemed almost amused. Then the royal doors opened. A group of elders stepped outside. At their center stood Lord Varric. He was dressed in dark ceremonial robes. His silver hair was neatly tied behind his head. His expression was polite. But his eyes were cold. Your Majesty. Kael stopped. Varric. The older wolf looked toward Elena. His gaze lingered on her wrist. The guardian mark. Something flickered across his face. Fear. Gone almost instantly. Who is this? Kael answered. Elena Vale. Varric's expression remained calm. A human. Yes. A human Omega. Kael's voice hardened. She is under my protection. Varric bowed his head. Of course. But Elena noticed something. He did not look at Kael. He looked at her. And she did not like the way he watched her. Inside the stronghold, Elena was given a small room near the eastern hall. It was far larger than her cottage. A warm fire burned in the stone fireplace. Fresh clothes had been placed on the bed. Food waited on the table. Elena stood silently. She had never owned anything so beautiful. Yet she could not relax. She kept thinking about the wolves outside. About her mother. About Kael's words. She was a guardian. But what did that mean? A soft sound came from the doorway. Lyra entered. Elena smiled. You found me. Lyra climbed onto the bed. Elena sat beside her. The pup curled against her side. For the first time since arriving, Elena felt safe. Then the door opened. Kael stood there. His eyes immediately went to Lyra. She followed you again. Elena smiled. I didn't ask her to. I know. Kael stepped inside. He remained near the door. Elena. She looked at him. There are people here who do not trust you. I noticed. They believe humans destroyed our alliance. Elena's expression changed. I didn't destroy anything. I know. She studied him. Do you? Kael remained silent. Elena stood. My mother never told me about your people. Perhaps she was protecting you. From what? Kael looked toward the window. From people who would kill you if they knew who you were. Elena felt a chill. Like Varric. Kael's eyes narrowed. You noticed him. He noticed me first. Kael did not deny it. Before he could explain, footsteps echoed through the corridor. Several elders entered the room. Varric came last. His eyes immediately found Elena. One elder spoke. Your Majesty, the council cannot accept this. Kael's expression hardened. Accept what? The presence of a human in the royal stronghold. Elena remained silent. Another elder stepped forward. Especially an Omega whose origins are unknown. Kael's jaw tightened. She saved Darius. And perhaps caused his injuries. The room went still. Elena looked at the elder. What? Varric spoke calmly. We cannot know what happened in the forest. Elena felt anger rising. You think I hurt them? I think we must consider every possibility. Elena looked at Kael. He remained silent. That silence hurt more than Varric's accusation. She had expected him to defend her. Instead he simply watched. Varric continued. The wolves were attacked with poison. They appeared at her cottage. Now we discover she carries the guardian mark. His eyes narrowed. That is too many coincidences. Elena's hands tightened. I did not ask them to come to me. No. No. You expect us to believe that? Elena looked around the room. Every face seemed suspicious. She felt the old shame returning. The same feeling from the village. The same feeling of being unwanted. But something inside her had changed. She would not beg. She looked directly at Varric. You don't have to believe me. The council fell silent. Elena turned toward the door. If your king wants me gone, he can tell me himself. She looked at Kael. His expression had changed. He had expected her to defend herself. Instead, she simply walked away. Lyra immediately jumped from the bed and followed her. Elena. Kael's voice stopped her. He turned. He approached slowly. You misunderstand. Do I? I needed to hear what they would say. So you used me as a test. Kael's face tightened. I needed to know who would reveal themselves. Elena stared at him. And did you? His eyes moved toward Varric. For the first time, Elena saw something dangerous in his expression. Yes. Varric remained perfectly still. Kael looked back at Elena. You passed. Elena shook her head. I wasn't trying to pass anything. Then she walked away. Kael watched her disappear down the corridor. Rhea approached quietly. You hurt her. Kael looked at her. I know. She is not like the others. No. Kael's gaze remained on the corridor. She is stronger than she knows. Later that night, Elena sat alone in the library. She searched through old records about her mother. Most pages had been removed. Some names had been scratched away. But one ancient document remained hidden beneath a stack of damaged scrolls. Elena pulled it free. A faded royal seal appeared on the parchment. Her hands trembled. She read the first line. Guardian Mira Vale. Her breath caught. Then she saw a second name. Kael Frostfang. Elena stared. Her mother had known the Alpha King's family long before Elena had ever met him. But beneath those names was another line. A warning. When the Guardian returns, the crown will be hunted again. Elena slowly lowered the parchment. Behind her, someone entered the library. He turned. Kael stood in the doorway. He looked at the document in her hands. His face went pale. Where did you find that? Elena raised the parchment. My mother's name. Kael stepped closer. His voice became barely audible. That record was supposed to have been destroyed. Elena's heart began pounding. Why? Kael looked toward the dark windows. Then back at her. Because it tells the truth about what happened to your mother. And before Elena could ask another question, the library doors suddenly slammed shut behind them. The library doors slammed shut. Elena turned sharply. Kael was already moving. He crossed the room and pulled the handle. His expression hardened. Stay behind me. Elena looked at the ancient parchment still in her hands. Who locked us in? I don't know. Kael examined the door. There was no sound outside. No footsteps. No voices. Only silence. Then Elena noticed something. A thin line of silver light had appeared beneath the door. Kael saw it too. His hand moved toward the weapon at his side. Do not touch it. Elena stopped. The light slowly disappeared. Kael waited. Nothing happened. He opened the door. The corridor outside was empty. Elena stepped beside him. This place is supposed to be protected. It is. Then someone inside the stronghold did this. Kael looked at her. That is what worries me. They returned to the library. Kael closed the door behind them. Elena placed the parchment on the table. You said this record was supposed to be destroyed. Yes. Why? Kael remained silent for several moments. Then he finally spoke. Because my father believed your mother betrayed us. Elena stared at him. My mother. Kael nodded. He believed she gave our enemies information about the royal family. Elena's face went pale. She would never. I know. You just said your father believed it. I did. Then what changed? Kael looked toward the shelves. Evidence. He walked to an ancient cabinet and unlocked it. Inside were dozens of sealed documents. He removed one. This is the official history. He placed it on the table. Elena read the old account. Years ago, humans and Moonblood wolves had lived under an ancient alliance. Human healers protected wounded wolves. The wolves protected human settlements. Then the alliance collapsed. A royal convoy was attacked. The location of the convoy had been given to enemy forces. The blame fell upon Mira Vale. Elena's hands began to shake. That is a lie. Kael looked at her. How do you know? Because my mother disappeared the same year. He said nothing. Elena stared at the document. There has to be another record. Kael nodded. There is. He opened another cabinet. This time he pulled out a damaged journal. Several pages had been torn away. But one entry remained. Elena read it. The handwriting was not her mother's. It belonged to Kael's father. The evidence against Mira remains incomplete. The council demands her death. I refuse until the missing records are found. Elena looked up. Your father didn't believe she was guilty. Not at first. What happened? Kael turned another page. His face became darker. Someone changed his mind. Who? Kael pointed to a royal seal. Elena recognized it. Varric. She stepped back. Lord Varric. Kael nodded. He was one of my father's closest advisors. Elena's mind raced. If Varric convinced your father that my mother betrayed the wolves, then he had a reason to keep the truth hidden. Elena looked at the damaged pages. How do we find the missing records? Kael studied the shelves. The original archive has a hidden chamber. Elena frowned. You have a hidden chamber in your library? My ancestors were not known for trusting anyone. He moved toward the far wall. 3 stone symbols were carved into the wall. Kael pressed them in sequence. Nothing happened. Elena stepped closer. She noticed a 4th symbol. Small crescent. The same symbol she carried on her wrist. He touched it. The wall opened. A cold draft rushed through the library. Elena stared into the hidden passage. Kael looked at her. The Guardian opened it. They entered. The chamber beneath the library was smaller than Elena expected. Ancient records covered every wall. Most were untouched by time. Kael lit a torch. Elena moved along the shelves. Then she saw something. A wooden box. Her mother's name was carved into the lid. She reached for it. Kael stopped her. Wait. Why? Because if that box survived this long, someone wanted it hidden. Elena looked at him. And someone wants it found. Kael slowly opened the box. Inside were letters. A silver pendant. And a sealed message. Elena recognized the handwriting immediately. Her mother's. She picked up the letter. Her hands trembled. Kael watched silently. Elena broke the seal. The first line made her heart stop. If Elena ever finds this, then the council has failed to destroy the truth. Elena's eyes filled with tears. She continued reading. Mira had discovered that someone inside the royal council was secretly selling information to enemies. She had warned Kael's father. But before she could expose the traitor, she was framed. The attack that destroyed the alliance had not been caused by humans. It had been planned by someone inside the royal court. Someone who wanted humans and wolves to hate each other. Someone who could profit from war. Elena lowered the letter. Varric. Kael nodded. His fists tightened. The realization seemed to hurt him more than any wound. My father trusted him. He betrayed him. Kael looked at the old records. My family blamed your people for generations. Elena's voice softened. And you believed them. I did. She looked at him. But now you don't. Kael turned toward her. No. For the first time, Elena saw genuine regret in his eyes. I was wrong. The words were simple, but they carried the weight of generations. Before Elena could respond, footsteps echoed above them. Kael immediately extinguished the torch. They stood in darkness. Someone entered the library. Elena heard Varric's voice. Search the room. Kael leaned close enough to whisper. He knows. Elena's heart raced. The footsteps approached the hidden entrance. Kael looked toward the sealed records. Then toward Elena. We have to leave. How? He pointed toward a narrow tunnel behind the archive shelves. Elena grabbed her mother's letter. They moved silently. Behind them, stone scraped against stone. The hidden entrance was opening. Kael pulled Elena into the passage. They barely escaped before Varric entered the chamber. From the darkness, Elena heard his voice. Find the records. A servant answered. They are gone. Varric's voice became cold. Then find the girl. Elena froze. Kael's hand tightened around the hilt of his weapon. Varric continued. The Guardian has returned. Pause followed. Then he spoke words that made Elena's blood run cold. The royal bloodline cannot survive if she reaches the ancient sanctuary. Kael looked at Elena. Neither spoke. They both understood. The attack on the Wolf family had never been the true beginning. It had been the first move in a much older plan. And now Varric knew exactly where the final piece of that plan was. Elena. The human Omega he had spent years trying to erase. The Guardian who had unknowingly walked straight into the heart of the kingdom. And somewhere beyond the mountains, the ancient sanctuary was waiting for her. The hidden passage opened into the forest beneath the northern wall. Elena stepped out into the cold air with her mother's letter pressed tightly against her chest. For several seconds, neither she nor Kael spoke. Behind them, the hidden archive remained silent. But Elena could still hear Varric's voice in her mind. Find the girl. She looked at Kael. What is the ancient sanctuary? Kael's expression remained tense. It is where the first guardian made her oath to the Moonblood Crown. And why does Varric want me there? Because he is afraid of what you might discover. Elena looked toward the distant mountains. Then we should go. Kael nodded. They had taken only a few steps when a howl shattered the night. Kael stopped. His entire body became still. What? He looked back toward the stronghold. Something is wrong. A second howl followed. Then another. This time Elena heard panic beneath the sound. Kael's eyes hardened. The stronghold. They turned. Far behind them, dark smoke was rising above the walls. The gates had been attacked. Kael's face changed instantly. Stay here. Elena shook her head. No. Varric may be waiting for you. Then he already knows where I am. Kael stared at her. You cannot fight an army. I don't need to. Elena lifted her mother's healing satchel. I can help the wounded. Kael hesitated. Then he nodded. They ran. By the time they reached the outer wall, chaos had spread through the stronghold. Wolves moved through the courtyard. Some fought. Others carried injured members of their pack toward the healing hall. Arrows struck the stone walls. The gates had been forced open. Kael shifted instantly. The enormous black wolf launched himself into the battle. Elena watched him disappear into the chaos. Then she heard a familiar cry. Lyra! Rhea came running toward her. The little pup was nowhere beside her. Elena's heart dropped. Where is she? They took her. Who? Varric's men. Elena did not hesitate. Where? Rhea pointed toward the northern forest. Elena grabbed her satchel. Kael returned moments later, shifting back into human form. His breathing was heavy. Lyra is missing. I know. We have to find her. Elena nodded. Kael looked at Rhea. Stay here. Rhea shook her head. No. Kael stared at her. She is my daughter. Rhea's voice broke. I am coming. Kael looked toward Elena. For one moment, all three understood the danger. Then Elena spoke. If they took Lyra alive, they need her for something. Kael nodded. The succession. Elena remembered Varric's words. The royal bloodline cannot survive if she reaches the ancient sanctuary. They're using her to draw us there. Kael's expression hardened. Then we go. They entered the forest. Snow covered the ground. The moon was hidden behind heavy clouds. Elena followed the tracks. Kael moved beside her. Rhea stayed close behind. They found the first abandoned weapon near a frozen stream. Then a torn piece of royal cloth. Then tiny paw prints. Elena crouched. She was here. Kael looked toward the trees. They are moving toward the sanctuary. A voice echoed through the darkness. Then you finally understand. Varric stepped from behind the trees. Several armed men surrounded him. Lyra was held safely behind them. Rhea growled. Kael stepped forward. Release her. Varric smiled. You still believe this is about the pup? Kael's eyes narrowed. It ends tonight. No. Varric looked toward Elena. It begins tonight. Elena felt every eye turn toward her. Varric continued. Your mother made the same mistake you are making now. What mistake? Believing kindness could defeat power. Elena stepped forward. My mother didn't run because she was weak. Varric's smile faded. She ran because she knew what I was capable of. Kael moved between them. You will not touch her. Varric laughed softly. You still don't understand, Kael. He looked toward the pup. Your family is not the final key. His eyes returned to Elena. She is. Suddenly, an arrow flew from the darkness. Kael pushed Elena aside. The arrow struck his shoulder. Elena gasped. Kael! He staggered. Rhea lunged toward Lyra. The guards scattered. Chaos erupted. Elena rushed toward Kael. You're hurt. I'll survive. You always say that. She opened her satchel. Kael looked at her. You should run. No. Elena. She pressed a cloth against his wound. You can argue later. For a moment Kael simply watched her. Then he heard another movement. More enemies. Dozens of them. Elena looked around. They were surrounded. She could not fight them. But she could help the wolves. She opened her satchel and scattered a handful of crushed herbs into the snow. A strange silver mist rose from the ground. The wolves nearest to her suddenly became calmer. Their breathing slowed. Their wounds began closing faster. Kael stared. What did you do? I don't know. Elena looked at her hands. The guardian mark on her wrist was glowing. The wolves began gathering around her. White bodies formed a protective circle. Even wounded wolves stood again. Varric's expression changed. Fear appeared in his eyes. No. Elena looked at him. What? You shouldn't be able to awaken it. Kael turned toward Varric. What did you do to her family? Varric stepped backward. You know nothing. Then tell me. Varric's face hardened. Your father was a fool. Kael's eyes darkened. He trusted you. He trusted the wrong people. You destroyed the alliance. I saved the kingdom. You murdered innocents. Varric's voice rose. I gave this kingdom order. The wolves growled. Varric looked at Elena. And your mother almost destroyed everything. Elena stood. You're lying. She discovered too much. What happened to her? Varric smiled. She chose to disappear. Elena's voice shook. You killed her. No. Varric's expression became colder. She sacrificed herself to keep you hidden. Elena felt the world tilt. Her mother had not abandoned her. She had been protecting her. Kael stepped beside Elena. Enough. He shifted. The enormous black wolf roared. The forest trembled. The wolves charged. Varric's soldiers scattered. Rhea reached Lyra. She pulled the pup safely into her arms. Elena remained beside Kael. Together they moved through the chaos. Then Varric disappeared into the trees. Kael started after him. Elena grabbed his arm. No. He looked at her. He will lead us to the sanctuary. Kael stopped. She was right. But before they could move, a terrible sound came from behind them. Darius. He had followed them from the stronghold. He collapsed in the snow. Kael rushed toward his brother. Darius was alive. But barely. Elena knelt beside him. She placed her glowing hand over his wound. Silver light spread across his body. His breathing steadied. Kael stared at Elena. The expression in his eyes was no longer suspicion. It was certainty. You are the guardian. Elena looked at the glowing mark on her wrist. She finally understood. Her mother's secret was alive inside her. And somewhere beyond the dark mountains, the ancient sanctuary was waiting. But Varric had escaped with one final secret. And when he reached the sanctuary first, he would reveal something that would change Elena's understanding of her mother forever. The forest had gone silent again. Darius lay beneath a thick cloak while Elena pressed her glowing hand against his wound. The silver light slowly faded. His breathing steadied. Kael remained beside them. He stared at Elena's wrist. The guardian mark was still glowing faintly beneath her skin. You knew, Elena whispered. Kael looked at her. I suspected. But you never told me. I didn't know enough. Elena lowered her hand. My whole life has been a lie. Kael shook his head. No. Your mother hid the truth. That is different. Elena looked toward the mountains. Why would she hide me? Kael glanced at the letter she had taken from the archive. Because someone was hunting your family. Rhea stepped closer. There was a time when humans and wolves trusted each other. Elena looked at her. What happened? Rhea's eyes became distant. Fear happened. She looked toward Kael. And someone made that fear useful. Kael's expression darkened. Varric. Rhea nodded. Your mother discovered his plan before anyone else. Elena's voice trembled. What plan? Kael answered. To destroy the alliance. He explained that Varric had spent years creating hatred between humans and wolves. He had manipulated reports, forged messages, hidden evidence. Every attack had been made to look as though the other side was responsible. The result had been war. Families had lost their homes. Villages had burned. Wolf clans had disappeared. And both sides had blamed each other. Elena looked down. My mother knew. She discovered the truth, Kael said. And then, she tried to expose him. Elena closed her eyes. What did he do? He made sure nobody believed her. Ria's voice softened. Your mother knew she could not defeat the council alone. So she disappeared. Yes. Elena opened her eyes. She left me. She saved you. The words struck Elena harder than she expected. Ria continued. She knew the Guardian bloodline was the last thing Varric needed to control the Moonblood Crown. Elena looked at Kael. What does my blood have to do with the crown? Kael remained silent. Darius, now awake, answered weakly. The first Guardian didn't simply protect the royal family. Elena turned toward him. She created the bond. Darius nodded. Only a true Guardian can awaken the ancient sanctuary. Elena's heart raced. And what happens when it awakens? Kael looked toward the mountains. The Guardian can reveal the truth hidden within the crown. Elena frowned. Why does Varric fear that? Because the crown remembers. Silence followed. Kael explained that the Moonblood Crown was not merely a symbol of royal authority. It carried the ancient oath between humans and wolves. When the first Guardian sealed the alliance, the truth of that oath was placed inside the sanctuary. Anyone who tried to claim the throne through betrayal would eventually be exposed. Varric had spent generations keeping the sanctuary closed. Elena was the first Guardian capable of opening it. She looked at her wrist. So he wants me dead. Kael shook his head. No. His voice was grim. He wants you alive. Elena's blood ran cold. He needs you to open the sanctuary. A distant horn sounded. Everyone turned. Kael stood. We have to move. They traveled deeper into the mountains. Snow covered the narrow path. Elena walked beside Kael. For a long time neither spoke. Finally she asked, Did you ever hate my mother? Kael stopped. No. But your father believed she betrayed him. My father was wrong. And you? Kael looked at her. I believed the story because I trusted the people who told it. Elena studied his face. You lost your family because of that lie. Yes. And now? Kael stepped closer. Now I know the truth. His voice softened. I should have believed your mother. You never knew her. No. He looked at Elena. But I know what kind of woman she must have been. Elena's eyes filled with tears. How? Because she raised you. For several seconds Elena could not answer. Then a small sound came from behind them. Lyra. The pup had been walking beside Ria. She suddenly ran toward Elena. Elena crouched. Lyra placed her head against Elena's chest. A warm silver light appeared between them. The Guardian mark brightened. Kael watched carefully. Ria whispered. The bond is waking. Elena looked up. What bond? Before anyone could answer, the mountain shook. A deep sound rolled beneath the earth. Snow fell from the surrounding cliffs. Then a massive stone doorway appeared between two ancient pillars. Silver symbols illuminated the entrance. Kael stared. The sanctuary. Elena stepped forward. The symbols responded to her presence. One by one they began glowing. The doorway opened. Inside stood an enormous stone altar. At its center was a circular carving depicting a human woman standing beside a black wolf. Elena walked toward it. The moment she touched the carving, a vision filled her mind. She saw her mother. Mira stood inside the same sanctuary. She looked younger, fearful, but determined. A voice echoed through the vision. If you are seeing this, Elena, then I failed to keep you hidden. Elena's breath caught. Mother. Mira looked directly toward her. I need you to understand one thing. The vision trembled. You were never abandoned. Elena's tears fell. You were protected. The image changed. Mira was standing beside a young Kael. His father was there too. And behind them stood Varric. Mira pointed toward him. He will try to convince the world that the guardian belongs to the crown. The vision darkened. Do not believe him. Elena whispered. What does that mean? Her mother's final words echoed through the sanctuary. The guardian does not belong to the king. The vision disappeared. Elena opened her eyes. Kael stood before her. She looked at him. My mother said the guardian does not belong to the king. Kael nodded. She was right. He stepped back. You owe me nothing. Elena stared at him. I know. You choose what happens next. For the first time, Elena felt completely free. No village. No council. No prophecy could decide her future. Then footsteps echoed outside. Kael turned. Varric entered the sanctuary. Several armed wolves stood behind him. His expression was calm. You finally opened it. Kael moved toward him. It's over. Varric smiled. No. He looked at Elena. Now the real choice begins. The altar suddenly awakened. A brilliant silver light filled the chamber. Ancient words appeared above Elena. Kael read them aloud. His face changed. The guardian must choose the king. Everyone went silent. Varric smiled. But Elena did not. Because she remembered her mother's warning. The guardian did not belong to the king. She looked at Kael. Then at Varric. And slowly stepped toward the ancient altar. This time the choice would be hers. The ancient words remained suspended above the altar. The guardian must choose the king. No one moved. Not Kael. Not Rhea. Not Darius. Not even Varric. Elena stared at the glowing words. Her mother's warning echoed in her mind. The guardian does not belong to the king. She slowly turned toward Kael. He was watching her. There was no command in his eyes. No expectation. Only patience. Varric broke the silence. You see. He stepped forward. The sanctuary recognizes the old law. Choose Kael, and the Moonblood Crown becomes yours. Elena looked at him. And if I refuse? Varric's smile disappeared. Then everything your mother sacrificed for will be lost. Kael stepped between them. Do not listen to him. Varric laughed. You would let her refuse? Yes. The answer came instantly. Kael looked at Elena. If she chooses nothing, I will still protect her. Elena's heart tightened. Varric shook his head. You are a fool. Kael's voice became cold. Perhaps. Then he looked at Elena again. But she will never be forced to choose me. The words changed something inside her. For years, Elena had believed that powerful people always decided her future. Village elders, hunters, council members, even people who claimed to protect her. But Kael was different. He was the first person who had power over her and chose not to use it. Elena turned toward the altar. She placed her hand against the ancient stone. The entire sanctuary shook. Silver light spread across the walls. Images appeared around them. The first guardian. The first Moonblood king. Humans and wolves standing together. Then the vision changed. Mira appeared. She was holding a small child. Elena. Mira's voice echoed through the sanctuary. Blood does not create the guardian. Elena's eyes filled with tears. Choice does. The vision shifted again. Mira was standing before the Moonblood Crown. Behind her stood Varric. Young. Ambitious. Dangerous. He held a hidden blade. Mira turned. You will never control the crown. Varric answered. Then I will destroy everything that protects it. The vision disappeared. Varric's face went pale. Kael looked at him. The sanctuary remembers. Varric stepped backward. No. Darius moved forward. You lied to my father. Rhea's eyes filled with anger. You destroyed our family. Varric suddenly drew his weapon. Everything happened at once. Kael shifted. A massive black wolf slammed into Varric before he could reach Elena. The guards attacked. Royal wolves rushed through the sanctuary entrance. The ancient chamber became a storm of movement. Elena stepped away from the altar. She saw Varric break free and run toward the crown. He reached for it. The moment his fingers touched the ancient metal, the crown rejected him. A wave of silver light threw him backward. He landed against the stone floor. Kael stood over him. "You wanted the crown." Varric struggled to rise. "I wanted order. You wanted control." Kael's eyes hardened. "There is a difference." Varric looked toward Elena. "She will destroy everything." Elena stepped forward. "No." Her voice was calm. "I will end what you started." Varric stared at her. "You are only an Omega." Elena looked at the guardian mark on her wrist. "Maybe." Then she looked around the sanctuary. "But I opened the door you spent generations trying to keep closed." The royal wolves began gathering behind her. Darius stood beside Kael. Rhea held Lyra close. The ancient sanctuary filled with silver light. Elena returned to the altar. She understood now. The prophecy had never meant that she had to surrender herself to a king. It meant that the guardian had the power to decide who was worthy to lead. And Elena already knew her answer. She looked at Kael. "You." Kael's expression changed. But Elena continued. "Not because the prophecy tells me to." She stepped closer. "Because you gave me a choice when you could have taken it away." Kael lowered his head. Elena placed her hand against the crown. Silver light spread across the sanctuary. The ancient oath awakened. Every royal wolf bowed. Not to Elena. Not to Kael. To the Alliance. The walls filled with visions of the past. The truth of the betrayal spread through the sanctuary and beyond it. The evidence hidden for generations was revealed. Varric's crimes could no longer be denied. By sunrise the council would know. The human villages would know. The entire kingdom would know. The war built upon lies was finally ending. Varric was taken into custody. Darius survived. Rhea and Lyra were safe. And Kael stood beside Elena beneath the first light of dawn. The same golden light that had once touched the snow outside her cottage. Elena looked toward the mountains. "It feels different." Kael followed her gaze. "What does?" "The sunrise." He looked at her. "Why?" "Because the first one brought you to my door." A quiet smile touched Kael's face. "And this one?" Elena looked at him. "This one brought me home." Kael was silent. Then he stepped closer. He did not command her. He did not claim her. He simply extended his hand. Elena looked at it. Then she took it. Behind them, hundreds of white wolves began moving through the sanctuary. Lyra ran ahead. Rhea followed. Darius laughed softly as the pup raced through the snow. For the first time, Elena did not feel like an Omega standing among powerful creatures. She felt like she belonged. Kael looked at her. "When I found my family at your cottage, I thought I was coming to rescue them." Elena smiled. "But you weren't." "No." He looked toward the wolves. "You had already rescued them." Elena remembered that first night. 3 injured wolves. A frightened pup. A small cottage. A choice made without knowing what it would cost. She finally understood why the title of guardian had never belonged to someone who was born powerful. It belonged to someone who chose compassion when fear would have been easier. Kael squeezed her hand gently. "Will you stand beside me?" Elena looked at the kingdom below. Then at the wolves. Then back at Kael. "Yes." The ancient Moonblood banners rose above the sanctuary. Their silver symbols caught the first sunlight. And far below, the human villages opened their gates. For the first time in generations, humans and wolves walked toward one another without weapons. The kingdom had changed. But Elena's old cottage remained untouched in the forest. The place where everything began. The place where a frightened Omega had opened her door to 3 strangers. And months later, that same door would become the entrance to the first sanctuary of the new alliance. A place where no one would be turned away simply because they were weak. A place where humans and wolves could finally stand together. Elena stood beneath the morning sky as white wolves moved peacefully through the meadow. Kael stood beside her. Lyra rested at her feet. The sun rose over Frostpine. And Elena finally understood the truth her mother had spent her life protecting. She had never been meant to become important because she was powerful. She became important because when everyone else chose fear, she chose kindness. The forest had once been divided by hatred. Now it carried the sound of wolves and humans walking together. And somewhere beyond the mountains, a new generation was already being born into a world where they would never have to inherit the old hatred. The first choice had been made in a tiny cottage on a freezing night. Simple choice. Open the door. Protect the helpless. Trust compassion. And that one choice had changed an entire kingdom.